Hello, everybody. It's the old man here. Welcome to the Geekcast Presents. Joined by the usual cast, Sam and Seamus. We're having a little bit of technical issues tonight, so every single one of us was forced to dial in to this on our cell phones. So we apologize if we don't sound as good as we usually do. Tonight we're going to be talking about good bad versus bad bad, and is there a difference? What do we mean by that? Well, I think it's the difference between something like Army of Darkness or Evil Dead, which is so bad it's awesome, or something like we'll say Alone in the Dark, that utterly forgettable survival horror. Well, that utterly forgettable film that was an adaptation of a pretty good survival horror franchise that everybody forgot about after the movie was done with because the movie was awful. So, guys, what do you think? Is there a difference between good bad or bad bad?
Um,
Jim, I'm a longtime listener, first time caller. Say I love the show, but I have I have a very specific perspective. No, I have a very specific perspective on what kind of makes something good and what makes something bad. Like I don't really get it when people say like, "Oh, it's so bad, it's good." I mean, well, I guess I kind of get what they're saying, and that something is like technically deficient in their minds but still entertaining. And that's really where I draw the line. Like if something entertains me, I think it's good. Like The Room is a fucking fantastic movie because it keeps your attention from beginning to end. Uh, Something like the example I always use is Dinner for Schmucks is bad, period. It's like it has better production value. It has A-list actors at the time, I guess, Steve Carell and Galifianakis, but it's fucking boring, and I walked out of it. Um, and I don't think technical proficiency should come into this at all because, like, if you talk to any artist, the George Lucas was so correct when he said that a project is never finished; it's only abandoned. Like, nothing is ever an artist's vision because, like, an artist their idea of what their movie or their project is going to be is more of an emotional thing. It's an ideal. It can never actually be achieved, and like you will invent things as the creator of it to hate and to find wrong with it.
You know, I'm a
So I
sucker
don't.
for the special features on DVDs, and on the Attack of the Clones DVD. Ben Burt, the sound designer for the originals, and then the actual editor, film editor for the prequels and sound designer, has a feature on there called "Films Are Not Released; They Escape."
that, that is accurate. It somehow claws its way out of production hell.
That is true. Well, and then I guess the same thing. I mean, I guess it's kind of true no matter what you're doing, right? There's never a good stopping point. It's only just you've kind of run out of time, and this thing needs to be done. Sam, what do you think?
to me personally, I think that there's two aspects really. One is you can take a movie that's bad, like say Nicolas Cage, Army of One, or the again with Nicolas Cage, the Werner Herzog film Bad Detective. They're both bad films, but they're very self-aware of it. In fact, there's one part of Bad Detective where literally every single problem that Nick Cage's character has is resolved for him back to back to back, just magically. But it's absolutely hilarious. I think that what pulls this off and ties it together, though, is forgive me for being a little bit cheesy, but if you have soul behind what you're trying to do, because what Seamus was saying is, like, I'll use a heavy metal example. You can be the most technical person ever. You can be like Obscura and use seven-string guitars with the most technical precision possible and have the most amazing blast beats. But at the end of the day, if you don't have any soul behind it, then it's just going to be a bunch of noise constructed together in a certain way. But if you have soul and a mood behind what you're trying to do, then it's going to stand out as art.
Yeah, like, do you think, like Jim, like when you see something that is like, do you take technical stuff into account? Because like, what is the? I think it's kind of like form follows function. Maybe that's not the right term, but if the purpose of me watching something is to be entertained or to learn something, mostly to be entertained when it comes to movies, and if something does that and it accomplishes it, like what can I say about it? Like I can't say that it failed. Like even if they shoot from what we consider to be like odd angles or what have you.
Well,
Do you take that stuff into consideration?
well, like think of it this way. Going from a technical perspective, even if you have a good thought out story and it's all well put together, that's one thing. But there was an entire genre of the Italian like hyper realistic expressionistic type films where literally they would just film everything guerrilla style because they were forced to with no budget, but critics absolutely love that shit even though it's just technically garbage.
Well, I think a lot of it is it's what you it's how you or it's what you make out of the resources that you have available to you at the time. You can take a film like The Boondock Saints. Um, and it's a low budget film. I think they only made it on a couple $1 million, but I can't remember his name now. Troy something or other. And I don't know if it was the cinematography he employed or
Troy
whatnot.
Duffy.
Troy Duffy, that's right. God, I feel bad for not remembering that name. But yeah, like I don't know if it was the cinematography that Troy Duffy used in the original, um, but it was actually. I mean, it comes off as a very quality, professionally done film. Whereas like the second one comes off very canned, very I don't know. It by all counts, it's a much better film and in terms of technical aspect, but it feels like a much worse. You guys need to hang on a sec though. I got to duck out for a second. Carry on.
Okay, the same thing that we were discussing with the Boondock Saints happened with Kick-Ass. Matthew Vaughn had an absurdly low budget to make the first Kick-Ass film, and he actually left the director's seat to go do Kingsman: The Secret Service shortly after that. So the second one had a different director but a much higher budget, and the second film was just god awful. I think it's just more of, if you have a correct vision, you can stick with it while still making sacrifices for the sake of budget, then you do have something special.
And I think this show is a perfect illustration of that kind of guerrilla style that you were talking about. Jim is going out and fucking arresting or shooting somebody live on the air. You know, like like we use all of the animal here on the
Ha- Hashtag take a knee.
cast. Yes, everybody, get up and then get down.
I'm
Uh,
kneeling right now. I'm sucking the PC Society's cock.
hey, this ain't no political thing, except when it is. It does occasionally turn to that.
Yeah,
Um,
it does.
I was, I had a thought when we're determining what's good, bad, and what's shit that is boring and awful. Um, what do you think of like the community aspect of it? Like, is it, could you consider something to be good, bad if um, you and a group of friends can have a good time watching it? Like, is The Room something that you would watch alone?
Oh, absolutely not.
See,
If I'm
I
if
would.
if I'm gonna watch The Room, I need alcohol and people to share my pain with.
alcohol are only friends. But I don't know. Like at least for the room, I think I could watch that alone because it doesn't feel its length. Like because like I think there are those certain good bad quote unquote movies that do kind of stand on their own. Um, like because like when you're watching something that's like really, I guess confusing might be a good word for it. Where just like it keeps you guessing, like what the fuck is going to happen next. Like nobody's really talking over that. Like there isn't that much commentary you can even do on something like The Room, or you can do some commentary on the Manos Hands of Fate and EGOT and stuff like that. But like if you're just kind of like asking questions to yourself, like I think that's good enough. I think that means it stands on its own. Any
Um,
any
yeah, I can see that for sure. When you're talking about a film that keeps you guessing, like say if you're watching something like Seven for the first time, um, if you're watching that making commentary, it's going to be limited to those fly by the seat of your pants sort of predictions that you make as an audience member, which is abruptly met by somebody going, "Hey, shut up. I'm trying to watch this." So that is kind of its own thing. Sometimes it's fun to revel in stupidity. Um, there's quite a few just stupid, awful movies that I know are not good, but I still watch them anyway. It's my stupid, I suppose.
what's like what would be the good bad movie that you could watch by yourself, alone in a room, no cell phone, no nothing, just you and the movie?
Oh boy, the worst good bad movie for me. Man, that's kind of
I'm
a
assuming
tough
it's some
one.
Nicolas Cage vehicle.
Honestly, it probably would be something with Nick Cage. Um, that movie Army of One, I can definitely watch anytime because it's so over the top. Anything with Nicolas Cage flying around on a star-spangled bannered hang glider searching for Osama bin Laden. It's that's a good time to me. I enjoy that a lot. Um, I mean, I may have to come back to this question because, like, if you've seen my movie library, it's just absurd. Kind of, what's your favorite, like, good bad movie to watch on your own?
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with this because, like, I don't think again, I have that thing where it's like if I'm entertained, it's a great fucking movie. I mean, people would probably consider most of what I watch to be like cheesy. That in that sense, it's bad. I mean, I love Electric Dreams, which is a 90-minute early MTV music video in which an architect, a concert pianist, and a sentient computer with the voice of Harold from Harold and Maude form a love triangle, and it has music by ELO. It's like, would people consider that bad because it's dated? Because it has like an older style of editing?
You know,
They'll consider it good.
one bad movie that I never do get tired of, though, is Smokin' Aces. It's not a good movie by any stretch, but for some reason, like, I am thoroughly entertained from start to finish with that movie. It's just over the top enough for me.
Describe Smoking Aces to us.
Smokin' Aces is basically a manhunt film where there is a bounty or a hit put on this Vegas magician who's kind of like a Frank Sinatra type guy who schmoozes with the mob, and now he's like a witness protection type guy. And there's a hit put on him, so literally everybody's going after him. There's corrupt ex-cops going after him. There's lesbian sharpshooting assassins going after him. There's there's neo-Nazi skinhead crazy guys with chainsaws going after him. And it all turns into a gigantic bloodbath at the end because all of these totally inept criminals are all facing off against each other to try and kill this one guy.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a mad, 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 mad world with Nazis. Or a battle royale. Um, yeah, I'm still trying to think of like something like truly what people might consider awful. I mean, or here's something that I heard from my cohort, Anders here. What do you think of the idea? We've talked about good, bad, but what about bad, good? Like, when I hear that, I think of like art house films, which are boring or difficult to watch, but you still appreciate them. It's like,
Yeah,
is that valid? Should you have to get over a movie's inaccessibility?
I have I have two answers to art house films. They're both titles. One is Valhalla Rising, which is just like the movie made me feel like I needed to take a shower afterwards. Um,
Is that a Finding Refn?
yes,
Oh, he is my yeah, I know, he is my favorite fucking director. I could do a whole podcast on him, but go on.
I actually just bought a copy of The Neon Demon. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna end up liking it. So yeah, I'm excited to watch that this weekend.
If you liked Only God Forgives,
Yeah.
you'll like this. It has more talking than characterization than Only God Forgives. It's not as artsy as that, but it has some twists and turns, and I think it has a very good social message.
Perfect. Another another art house film that I enjoyed is Rubber.
Explain what about it
Rubber.
makes it
R-
inaccessible to a
well,
general public, or just the case of people like us.
Rubber used to be on Netflix for the longest time, but the basic premise is it's about a sentient tire for a car that just rolls around and it murders people.
This is an art house film? That sounds like a fucking fake trailer in
No,
a Quentin Tarantino grindhouse project.
no,
Yeah, it
this is
honestly sounds like something I would find on Vimeo as a trailer for a movie that was never made.
no, this is definitely an art house film. Like it takes some really highbrow, sort of sophisticated ways of blocking a scene, but it's done with a fucking tire that kills people.
Do you consider Deathbed the bed that eats an art house film?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you consider Deathbed the bed that eats a an art house film?
I've never seen that, so I can't answer.
Crazy Fat Ethel too. It's that is high art. Anyway,
Actually,
Jim, did you kill anybody while you were out there?
No, I did not. Um,
actually,
and for
oh,
those of you who are watching, I am at work right now working my nondescript, undisclosed job, and every so often I get called away from my desk. So, my job is so mind-numbingly dull that we joke that whenever I get called away, that like I have to go kill somebody or something.
yeah. Um, actually, uh, sorry to steer back on track, but one of my favorite movies of all time could it can definitely be considered an art house film. Whatever your opinion is of Darren Aronofsky, the guy knows how to make a good film, and The Fountain is probably by far one of my favorite movies ever, but just about everybody who I talk to absolutely despises that film.
Hmm. Jim, do you have any thoughts on what we were discussing before you came back? Was we talked about good bad, and now we're discussing bad good, and like whether it is valid to forego, say, an art house film or something generally inaccessible, like to forgive its inaccessibility or it being boring or like thing that like is is like the purpose of a film to entertain, or is it supposed to feel like homework? Is it? I mean, I guess it doesn't really have ontological stuff is a fucking rabbit hole. But yeah, like do you think like art house should strive to be entertaining, or is it good to have something that makes you bored or frustrated?
That's a good question. I often wonder, if there is an answer to that. I guess I can only speak through personal anecdote. I'm a big fan of the Riddick films, Pitch Black, Chronicles of Riddick, and then Riddick. I enjoy them thoroughly because they're not very pretentious. They are nothing more and nothing less than what they try to be, which is action-packed space opera built around a magnetic central character, kind of an anti-hero sort of dude. And really, I mean, when you think about it, and when all's said and done, it's just an attempt. It's just a hey, everybody loves Vin Diesel kind of love fest. But I mean, is there anything wrong with that if you wrap it up inside of a thoroughly entertaining package, which I think all of the Riddick films are? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would say that the Riddick films are bad good.
Yeah, like I don't think like I think when you have some art house film where people say like, oh, you really have to study it, or like it's not supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be draining. Like I don't think that's valid. Like I think learning, like if you're trying to teach your audience some kind of lesson or communicate something about the world, then unless the thing's just a roller coaster and it's meant to make you feel bored, like I think it should be entertaining because there's plenty of art house stuff that is like fun to watch. Like
I got
the
sorry.
example that I always think of is Kenneth Anger. Like Scorpio Rising is like not just like one of my favorite short films. Like it's one of my favorite films. Period. Like it has beautiful and interesting cinematography, and the music is incredible and so picked out, and like you can actually get the message from a first viewing. I showed it to my parents who, you know, like just one night when we were drinking, and they have no background in any of this stuff, and it's like they loved it and they kind of got the message too. And so like I don't think there's like really any excuse for art house films to be inaccessible or boring.
Have you ever seen Old Boy?
I have not.
Sam, have you ever seen Old Boy?
That's a negative.
And I'm talking about well, okay. For those of you who haven't seen it, which are both of my panelists, and if any of our audience members haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a Korean film. I know I'm not into fringe Korean cinema. A friend of mine told me about this and made me watch it, and it's definitely an art house film, um, because it definitely it's bold, it's experimental with its narrative technique, things like that. It doesn't like narrate all the gaps in. You kind of find them out through visual means rather than, dialogue cues. But like Seamus was saying, you don't have to work hard to figure out what's going on. The gist of it is this guy one day, just going home from work, gets kidnapped and locked in a hotel room for like 20 years. And then inexplicably one day he's let out. And now he's on a mission to find out who imprisoned him and why. Um, and there's a reason why. It's kind of a very cerebral reason why. And the ending is, and I apologize for the vulgarity, but can only be described in a simple phrase: fucked up. The ending is like beyond fucked up. But it's an art house experience that isn't hard to understand, and you thoroughly enjoy yourself while you're understanding. Especially a scene with a hammer and about 20 goons that old boy has to fight his way through.
Um, I I got disconnected shortly after I mentioned the fountain, but I'm not sure if you either of you had anything to say about it.
Oh, I don't.
But yeah, the thing that stood out to me the most about the fountain was just how accessible it was to me because it was kind of more of a it was more of just a tapestry of like emotions. Forgive me for being so pretentious when I describe it, but the film's not linear at all. It's not linear at all. In its storytelling, there's three different stories that are somehow sort of connected, and it's a very real thing. You can connect to the fear of dying, and you can also connect to loss of a loved one. And it kind of covers this universal theme that death is inevitable, but yet at the same time, like if you look at it, what exactly is would the concept of an afterlife be? Or if immortality were accessible, what would that be? So it's, real questions that a lot of us do think about all the time, but it's done in a visual way that, you're able to digest it.
Well, for the real answer to what the afterlife is like, let's go to Jim. Jim?
Ew.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
God damn it, Jim. What's going to happen to us? Tell us.
Everybody's going to purgatory.
Fuck you. Whatever. Kids, Protestantism is the way to go. Don't listen to this shill for the Pope.
Um, Hail Satan.
Oh, you will get yours. Um, what was I thinking of? Um, yes. So where do we want to go from here? Like, or let's. Actually, I don't think Sam. Did you give a final answer on this? Like, do you believe that there's value to something being inaccessible, boring, off,
Yes.
off-putting?
Yes. Two two films that I absolutely love were considered inaccessible and boring, yet they became cult classics and
But
cinematic
is it?
masterpieces over time. Those two films were 2001: A Space Odyssey and Blade Runner, and anything like that accessible because it's ahead of its time, so in some cases. So, I mean, if something is technically well done, it has something good to say, and it has a lot of soul behind it, then yeah, yeah, if it's inaccessible at the time, just let it age. Let it age
But
like let it age like good alcohol.
but do you like those movies? Because do you think there's the value in the inaccessibility itself, or is it the movie is good in spite of that?
I think it's good in spite of that because if it's ahead of its time, then it kind of connects with you on a deeper level. If it's something that you feel like is an out of this world experience, then yeah, that
Yeah, so I
Like
guess
it.
we're on the same page here because Jim was talking about Riddick and I talk about um, Kenneth Anger and and you say you love Blade Runner in spite of the slow parts or inaccessibility. It really comes down to like a theory of like what is the purpose of a film and its value would be whether or not it accomplishes that, and it kind of comes down to that, like. And I would say that like the value in film is to either entertain or to teach. And if something is more entertaining, it'll stick with you. Actually, is that true? I mean, I guess you could make something like really traumatizing and that would stick with them as a lesson, but maybe it would get distorted. Maybe it'd be less reliable. But maybe this is getting away too much from the discussion of good, bad, bad, bad.
The next point that I want to pull up is: does anybody have a film that they enjoy that's like so awful that it's a comical experience, like a movie that's taking itself absolutely seriously but it unintentionally becomes a comedy?
Um, Films that are taking themselves really seriously, but are shit. I mean, like, yeah, if something's like really pompous, I mean, I guess that would have to be.
Well,
I'm
I
trying to think
mean,
because that sounds
maybe
like a shitty art house film. That sounds like an Andy Warhol thing with filming the fucking Empire State Building for 24 hours.
what what I'm meaning is like any movie that absolutely failed at its goal of being like a legitimate film and it failed to the point that it's absolutely hilarious. Like, in my opinion, I think that Saw is absolutely hilarious. It tried so hard to be terrifying, but to me, the whole film played out like a jackass movie.
Or I guess The Room could be this as well. But then again, I don't know. The Room has its own story, and you remember all the characters and shit. Like, for something that's, I don't know, what is something that is like truly worth just laughing at, not laughing with, because I think with The Room, like you're laughing with it, because it's like I think the people on set kind of knew it was weird, and and especially like the community that surrounds it now is kind of like we like these people, but I have a hard time thinking of a film where it's like you would like laugh at it in a mean way. Maybe actually no, maybe I do know one. It would be any of the films that I made when I was like 12 with my neighbor on a on a CVS disposable camcorder. Those I would laugh at in a mean way.
Jim, are there any films that you think are absolutely hilarious because they failed at trying to be a serious attempt at filmmaking?
Yes, Jim, are you back? I got I saw in the little text bubble that said he was away from keyboard. I don't really know what he's doing. Um,
Another one for me is like it was an independent thing. I think it was picked up by Magnet as its distributor, but it's called Vikingdom. It's probably one of the worst films that I've ever seen. Like, it actually starts out with Thor, the god of thunder, literally crucifying a priest when he goes to get his hammer back from some old church. And from there, it's just a downward spiral of buffoonery.
hmm. Well, shit. Is this? Now I'm wondering, with this like something that you would keep around just to make fun of in a in a condescending or a mocking way. Does this apply only to films, or is there like some short form media?
Oh shit.
Music?
Children of the
Like,
Corn. Children of the Corn is hilariously bad too.
yeah, the one thinking like, is there another art form in which like this kind of dynamic is applicable? Like, is there is actually, hmm,
Oh,
like
you know what?
there's definitely like TV like, or could there be like anything like that?
You
Is
know
there
what?
architecture you keep around
There's
because it sucks?
there's actually a few other hilariously bad films like Steel starring Shaquille O'Neal. Like you can't help but just giggle at how poorly done it all is. Or the remake of The Wicker Man again starring my boy Nicolas Cage.
Hey, that was a good movie. Like it
The
was a
the,
little
on-
bit of a thriller.
the only thing that redeemed that movie for me was just that wide shot of Nick Cage dressed as a bear running up and punching that chick in the face.
I don't know. It's weird. I saw the movie in a little, hipster bar thing, and I think I pretty much remember it from beginning to end. Like I think the
How to get
beginning is,
burned? How to get
yeah,
burned? How to get burned? How to get burned?
yeah. Like I think the beginning with like the truck accident was memorable for some reason. Um, I thought the atmosphere of snooping around the weird commune was kind of compelling, and you kind of felt like you were there. Like maybe it's because I'm from fucking New England, and so I'm used to like creepy Sturbridge Village, log cabin houses and stuff. Um, the the costumes stood out in my mind, and of course, punching women and girls while dressed as a bear and having bees thrown on your face. um, yeah, like that was, I'd say that was a successful movie. Like I would not make fun of that in a mean way. I want to encourage people to make more movies like that. If most movies were of the same caliber as the fucking Wicker Man remake, I would go to the theater more.
You
God
just
damn it,
lost a lot of critical credibility in my opinion.
oh, fuck critics. What do critics like? Critics like the Tree of Life, and the Tree of Life is
No,
fucking gay.
no, like any critical analysis that you have of a movie, I'm gonna go back and just say like you enjoyed the remake of The Wicker Man.
Well, who's got the BFA here?
The BFA.
Yeah, Bachelor of Fine Arts. I went to art school and I work in an art field. I made it. I am more qualified to talk about how The Wicker Man is a good movie, and I won't hear any criticism. I can hear some criticism. It did drag in some places, but whatever. No movie's perfect. I think it overall is a very solid structure.
Oh God. No.
What? What?
The movie was
I
a
was entertained and I remembered it. I
the
think it
movie
accomplished.
was a clumsy tonal mess, and any movie that has to rely on a nightmare within a nightmare just for the purpose of a jump scare is just it's not good. It's
Oh, come on,
bad
that's a little bit
directing.
funny.
It's bad
It,
directing. A nightmare within a nightmare trying to set up a jump scare that doesn't work. Just
hey,
shows you that the director doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
you ever play Alan Wake? Like that thing is entirely nightmares within nightmares. I think that's kind of an interest. Like it's relatable. You've had dreams within dreams and shit. Like you can kind of see that. It's if not creepy, it's at least like identifiable because we've all done this.
I've never had a dream within a dream. Like I've only had dreams where like I'm in my bedroom, but that's like the closest.
You, sir, need to do more lucid dreaming. I actually used to keep a journal and all that shit, and it got weird.
Wow,
Like,
who would have thunk that your subconscious gets weird?
yeah, like my dreams were all colonies of a million faceless ant people who were all albino and
Um,
rising out of a great whale with veins pulsating, a neon teal liquid riding on its back.
all that this needs is a Pomeranian for you to have a wet dream.
Oh my God, please. Like, strangely enough, I do not dream about Pomeranians. However, my brother dreams about them quite often. And he has dreams such as one of him and our old dog go at the county fair, and the Pomeranian is walking on its hind legs, and he's holding its front paw, like holding its hand. And they go to a stall, and the dog is pointing out fireworks that he wants my brother to buy. So if I had dreams about that, here's the fucking problem. Like, you know, the dreams of the innocent, they have boring dreams. Whereas I have a lot of emotional problems, and so the only things I dream about are horrible, faceless, Lovecraftian entities and visions of the sun exploding and consuming the earth, and conversations in which I am, or dreams in which I am having conversations with relatives of mine about Christian theology, and those are all. Oh, and also dreams where I go to Miami by myself. Anyway, this has gotten kind of away from it. Where the fuck is Jim? Because I'm pretty sure he's controlling the whether or not we are broadcasting. We may have gotten.
We might
We may have gotten.
broadcast all night long.
Oh no, I can't do this. I have to go to work and stuff.
Yeah, I do too. Fuck.
Or and my parents are. But where is that boy? I mean, I guess we could always just cut it off, edit it later, repost it or something.
Perhaps. Ah, boy. This has been a very bizarre stream.
Yeah, well, uh, oh, that's metaphysics for you, because we're just basically discussing like what is good. It's like fucking. That is kind of the only question, or one of the only questions. The only actual
Hopefully
question.
the
Where are we from?
hopefully the short film that I'm working on is one of those so bizarre it's enjoyable types.
So long as it's weird enough, if you find yourself getting bored, inject some fucking humor. Do whatever. Just make a sequel to Rascal. That's what I really
I
want.
well, I decided that like since the guy hallucinates to our audience members, I'm working on a film that explores my personal frustrations with life and purpose and philosophy and whatever else. Where the premise is a guy accidentally does a shit ton of acid and he gets locked in the bathroom with his cat and he hallucinates that his cat is talking to him in the voice of Werner Herzog and trying to teach him the meaning of life.
Yes, and something about quantum immortality or something. I saw a brief outline of this. I
Yeah,
think
yeah. It's a weird sort of downward spiral. but it's really, really dumbed down because I am not a physicist or a philosopher, so it's kind of.
Ugh, fucking hell. So, well, I think we've kind of covered everything that we wanted to say.
Yeah, the Wicker Man remake sucks
It's
balls.
great. Don't listen to him. It's a whole lot of fun. Bring your family. They'll love it. Kids will like it. Kids love Nick Cage.
Not the bees. What would
Kids
have been
love
a,
bees.
what would have been a great movie though is if they did that Superman film that was written by Kevin Smith that would have been
What?
directed by Tim Burton and
It
starring
was written.
Nicholas. Yeah, it was written by Kevin Smith, would have been directed by Tim Burton, and it would have starred Nicholas Cage as Superman.
Yeah, I've seen Nicolas Cage in the Cosmos, and you know what? It would have been better than fucking Man of Steel.
Like, this would have been the best movie ever.
Even
The
one of
only
them
thing,
next to, right next to the Star Wars.
the only thing that would probably redeem the DC extended universe for me is if the Justice League film begins with just like a wide shot of Superman's grave and you see a fist come out of the ground, and then it goes to like another wide shot of an aerial and Nick Cage just flies towards the camera going, ah. And they just recast Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Fucking, we need, fuck whether something's bad or something like. I agree with Mike Stoklasa because Mike Stoklasa is my daddy, but I would prefer that fucking George Lucas still be in control of Star Wars and be doing horrible, interesting things with it, rather than making something boring and predictable. I would have preferred that Tim Burton, fucking Kevin Smith, that hack who made one movie that happens to be my favorite movie of all time. Um, I would have preferred that they control Superman rather than fucking Warner Brothers. Uh, we need more craziness. We need more weird stuff. We need, God damn it, if they're going to be cycling directors with the Star Wars movies, one of them should be Tommy Wiseau. He would make an amazing Star Wars movie. Give that man $1 billion, and he'll make something that will live on for 1,000 generations. It would be incredible.
Actually, you know what I would love to see? I'd love to see a Batman film directed by Werner Herzog. Like, that has the potential to be the most depressing film of all time.
Yeah, it'd be fucking hilarious. Batman struggling against nature. Yes, he clothes himself in machines.
What would be even better though is if Werner Herzog did it in his documentary style.
Yeah,
Oh my
Zabat.
God. And and here we see the vigilante who goes out every night to fight the insurmountable threat of crime in Gotham. But why? Why does he fight such a losing battle when it can be argued that his madness is what inspires his enemies?
Oh, these are wonderful ideas. And, you know, fucking Disney, Warner Bros., we're available to direct. You know, we only have one condition. We need Tommy and Werner
And Nicolas
as
Cage.
yeah, and Nicolas Cage as co-directors, and Kevin Smith as our coffee boy and butt slave. And we'll do it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're just putting it out there. And I I think that's kind of everything that I have.
I'd also love
And
to see Werner Herzog direct a romantic comedy.
yeah, Grizzly Man wasn't a drama between him and the man. Man beats the
Oh
classic
God.
man.
Oh God, yes. Mm, the
But
Grizzly Man.
yeah, well, I'm assuming Jim has fallen some horrible tragedy. So
Oh,
um, I think I'm gonna sign off. But since we're still gonna be running,
I'll
I
uh,
don't know.
I'll
I
s-
could put
I'll
on a little
stick on
music.
for a little bit and I guess rant.
Yeah, you could read from some book you have lying around, or otherwise I
Yeah,
would put on some music or something.
yeah, some soft melodies.
Yeah, like some of this.
Um,
Yeah,
holy, holy 1990s Batman.
holy 1980s. Also, pay
Yeah.
respect to Roger because he was murdered by his own fucking brother.
No,
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
don't. I don't really give a shit. Uh,
I have a serious piece of ass in front of me, so I gotta be going.
enjoy that ass.
Okay. All right. All you boys have fun. Everybody, stay tuned. Sam is going to rant about things that he likes or um, describe his upcoming projects. Everybody, be sure to check back weekly with the Geekcast because we always have something really poorly thought out and poorly executed in the pipe.
Yep. All right. I'll see you later, man.
All right. Kisses, Mama.
Aw, bye now.
Good night, everybody.
Mm. So I could try to be positive in this really, really negative world, but honestly, that's too difficult. It's much easier to be negative. We're gonna talk about things that just kind of grind my gears. I'll tell you one thing that grinds my gears: those those fake down to earth celebrities. I know everybody's like on the dick of people like Jennifer Lawrence or Dave Grohl or something like that, but man, fuck them. I really don't like them at all. Jennifer Lawrence is such a diva, and like I don't know, it totally proved me right that one time when she just scolded a reporter for doing his job for taking notes on his phone while she was talking. She's all like, "Get off your phone, bro. Live in the now. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. I'm such a fucking princess." God, I hate her so much. She's so annoying. I also hate Dave Grohl. The guy is just so in love with himself. And he has the biggest fucking ego ever. I remember he did a Twitter post about like his favorite musicians and he named on his favorite albums and he said, "Oh wait, that was all me. You're welcome." Guy's a hack. He's got zero musical genius at all. All of his shit sound for the Foo Fighters sounds like generic elevator music crap. And like it's like he's trying too hard to get a number one hit. It's like he has this huge inferiority complex because he spent so much time in Kurt Cobain's shadow. The guy is such a hack. I can't stand him. And he's always trying to be the good guy, Dave Grohl. Like, quit it. spend more energy on actually creating worthwhile songs rather than your fucking good guy persona in the press. You're such a talentless hack, man. Can't stand Dave Grohl. In fact, there's two things that get me out of bed in the morning. The first thing is whiskey. Maybe too early to drink it, but it's never too early to think about it. And the second thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is maybe, just maybe, I will run into Dave Grohl and finally get the chance to just punch him in the fucking face.
Well, I picked a good time to come back, didn't I?
Oh yeah, Seamus had to sign off, so I decided to rant about things that really grind my gears until you came back.
It's okay. Like I say, I'm sorry about the absence there. Can't be helped. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That was pretty good though. I was almost running out of stuff to talk about. I spend most of my time absolutely hating Dave Grohl, that disingenuous, no talent hack.
I think you hate him more than is warranted.
Nah, he produces elevator music, and he's totally in love with himself.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any opinion about him one way or another, I guess.
The Pooh Fighters. God. Worst band ever.
See, I'm still
Bro,
kind of partial to him for the greeting they gave Rush when they were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
that's another
Hey,
thing. Oh, go ahead.
what's that?
I hate how Dave Grohl is an ass kisser and a name dropper. Like that's 90% of his shtick.
He's also like the nicest guy in rock and roll, though. Like everybody likes him. They always say
It's
he's such a great stand-up guy.
oh my god. It's all a front, just like Jennifer Lawrence. He's a totally egotistical hack. In fact, all of his Twitter posts are just about how much he loves himself.
Well,
He's a
I
total
don't follow Dave
narcissist.
Grohl on Twitter.
Yeah.
I try not to follow people on Twitter that I don't like.
It's kind of hard to get away from him when Loudwire keeps on like basically sucking his and Corey Taylor's genitalia.
Well, that's why I don't follow Loudwire either. In fact, I don't really follow much anything except for pro sports.
Yeah, that's lucky. I
Luck
kind of
has
have to
nothing to do
stay
with it, my
connected.
man.
Yeah,
I
I
did
don't.
that on purpose.
You catch my drift. It's rather fortunate to have that mentality. I kind of have to. I don't know. I feel compelled to be connected.
Well, don't get me wrong. I have a very carefully and painstakingly cultivated apathy towards all things social media. I actively try not to care. And so far, it seems to be working. Which is kind of stupid because now I've set out to become a YouTube personality.
Yeah. Well, then again, you uh, at least you probably won't be able to see like you should fucking kill yourself, Jim. You're a piece of shit.
That's true. But, I mean, we already knew that already.
Yeah, my prom date told me that I should kill myself, so I'm pretty immune
Well,
to
you were at
that.
prom?
No, it was a few weeks after prom.
Well, I guess if it doesn't happen during prom, then you're all set.
Yeah, exactly. If it doesn't happen on prom night, then it doesn't count.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I was asking Seamus. I think I'll ask you now. Are there any movies that you've seen that tried to be serious films, but they failed completely, and as a result, they're absolutely hilarious?
See, I don't know, because usually when I get into something like that, I don't end up laughing at it. It just pisses me off because I find myself wishing that the director or the producer or whatever, whoever starred in it, wouldn't have wasted my time by trying to be something that they weren't.
Fair enough.
And usually, like, I just try to block it out because I'm so mad afterwards. I guess, like, my favorite, dead horse to, I'll go ahead and kick this horse or whip it once again, but Alone in the Dark. Like, it tried hard to be something really cool and it failed utterly. And it's not even funny. It's just it's just bad. It's it's bad. It's a bad movie.
I feel the same way about Saw. Like, I keep on saying that it might as well be a Jackass film. Like the very end when the guy from The Princess Bride is sawing off his foot, he might as well be like, "I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the hacksaw."
Well, see, I didn't mind the original Saw. What I minded was the plethora of forgettable and pointless sequels. Saw didn't need a sequel. If they had left Saw where it was, where he says game over, turns the lights out, and then shuts the door, cool. Now we're left with this kind of scummy, fucked up feeling of like this dude dying horribly in this crappy little basement bathroom.
See, I thought that end was hilarious.
I mean, and yeah, I mean it does have kind of a black humor value to it. Don't get me wrong, but like Saw in and of itself, it wasn't bad. It wasn't
Not even,
anything groundbreaking.
not even
It failed as a slasher film. It failed as a mystery film. It kind of failed as a thriller, but somehow trying to be all three at once, it did something that was, I guess, tolerable to watch. But aside from like the gruesome self mutilation, you really get no value out of it.
I
So
just
in
thought
the
that
end, you just kind of come away saying, "Okay, well that was fun. Can I have my 1250 back?"
I just thought that very end scene though, when he gets up and he was the dead guy the whole time, I felt like that was probably just like a last minute, we need a twist ending because those are cool now. Hey, what if the dead guy is really the killer the whole time? Oh man. And it was stupid. Absolutely stupid.
I don't know if it was dumb or anything like that. It's just like I say, I think Saw's biggest crime is being forgettable, and like even more egregious than that, though, which Saw isn't responsible for, but it still it's a crime nonetheless. Are the multiple sequels that followed? Like, we didn't need to turn Jigsaw into some kind of like Batman-esque character. It was just okay, cool. He kidnapped people, put them through something fucked up to try and get them to change their life. They didn't rise to the challenge, so they die horribly. Okay, cool. You're still an asshole, and I still hate you because nobody really deserves that. Um, like, yeah. Am I supposed to feel sympathetic towards the bad guy? Not really. I mean, I'm not going to. So okay. I went into that one. I was like, okay, next. I'm gonna go watch some B house slasher films now because those at least kind of make me feel disquieted. Like I want to take a shower or something. Like,
Yeah, fair
okay,
enough.
so I want to film an example of a film that makes me laugh when it's trying to be serious, right? That I think the best examples of that would be The Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses or House of a Thousand Corpses. And those are both pretty damn good films.
Okay.
Um, I think House of a Thousand Corpses was intentionally funny.
Yeah.
Um, the one dude, I think it was not Bill, but the other guy, the other male. Um,
Otis.
no, 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 not the killers. The victims. The one who rushes out of Captain Spaulding's gas station. You're like, Dr. Satan!
Oh
That guy.
yeah, yeah.
I can't remember his name. All I remember is Bill because Otis was like, "Oh, Bill? Bill's been a great help."
Oh yeah, and he was also played by Dwight from The
Yeah,
Office.
Rain Robinson, before he was famous, right?
Yeah.
But anywho, House of a Thousand Corpses was supposed to be funny, right? It was like it was a tribute to that over the top B slasher film
Well,
from
it
the
was
70s and 80s that everybody loved to hate.
yeah, it's exploitation horror, really.
It really is, right? And I mean, it hits all the standard horror notes to a T, like almost as well as Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon does,
Yeah.
which is another good film. And if you hadn't noticed by now, like I really like self-aware horror films, like Cabin in the Woods, for example. But and again with House of a Thousand Corpses, right? We knew it was over the top. We knew this from the get-go. Rob Zombie directed it. Um, so we didn't have any real misconceptions about what it was supposed to be walking into it. I knew exactly what I was paying for when I handed that dude 1050 and said I want to see this movie, and I got exactly what I was paying for. Although I don't think I actually went to go see that in theaters. I actually think I watched it on DVD over at Rob's house, if I remember correctly. But then again, the same is true with The Devil's Rejects, right? I get it's another tribute film in a completely different vein, in a completely different spirit. But again, it's not by any stretch of the imagination a great movie. In fact, I think it tries to be a lot more dramatic than its predecessor and prequel, House of a Thousand Corpses. But at the same time, it's obviously a low budget type film, and it still comes off as being very, very adequate. Which goes back to the point I was trying to make initially: is I don't think technicality versus the story or anything like that. I don't think it's how technical you are. I think it's what you do with what you're given. Right? There are a lot of low budget films out there that don't have the technical prowess that a lot of other films do, but they make do with what they have, right? If you can't go for that crane shot, rather than try to emulate, that wide sweeping opening sequence, they play to their strengths, right? How can we do this and still make it good? And I think with House of a Thousand Corpses, that's exactly what it does, right? We've limited to ourselves to a very particular, very specific subgenre of a widely panned, overarching genre. So how can we do the best that we can with what we got? And I think that's what separates bad good from bad bad.
And
I
I
just
agree.
ranted for a second.
No, I agree, and I think that's a good way to end our podcast.
I think you're right. We've been kind of going at this for a hot minute, and by a hot minute, I mean like an hour and a half.
All right,
Well, sorry everybody that I wasn't present for most of this. Like I say, duty calls. So go ahead and mash that thumbs up button if you like what you saw. Like us and subscribe, share with your friends. And as always, you guys have a nice night, and we will see you later. I'm the old man, and this is the Geekcast.